My name is Nicole Brennan. I'm 45 years old, and I've spent 23 years building my career in commercial finance from absolutely nothing. I started as a teller counting pennies, worked nights to finish my MBA, and clawed my way up to Senior Vice President of Commercial Lending at First Line Credit Union. Nobody handed me anything. Nobody smoothed my path. Every promotion, every achievement, every ounce of respect I earned came from showing up, delivering results, and refusing to quit when others would have. That quiet pride in my work shattered at my younger sister's backyard barbecue on a sweltering Saturday afternoon in July, when her husband looked me dead in the eye and said, loud enough for half the guests to hear, "Still stuck in that dead-end banking job? Figures someone like you would settle." I stood there holding a tray of lemonade glasses, ice clinking softly, while the words landed like a slap across my face. The conversations around us stuttered. People glanced away. My sister Amanda pretended not to hear, suddenly fascinated by the potato salad. Her husband, Kyle Hoffman, just smirked and turned back to his buddies, dismissing me like I was help hired for the day. I set the tray down carefully, smiled politely at no one in particular, and walked to my car. But inside, something cold and sharp was already forming. A plan I didn't quite understand yet, but one I knew would teach him exactly who he'd just insulted. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one. Every share helps these stories reach someone who needs to hear them. Let's keep the conversation going. The barbecue had started innocently enough. Amanda's new house sat in one of those cookie-cutter developments where every lawn looked identical, every fence the same height. She'd texted me 3 times that week begging me to come, saying Kyle wanted to show off their new outdoor kitchen and she missed seeing me. I dressed nicely but casually, brought expensive wine, and arrived ready to be the supportive older sister. Kyle greeted me at the gate with a handshake that lasted half a second too short. "Nicole, glad you could make it." His tone suggested the opposite. He'd always treated me like some boring obligation Amanda dragged along, never bothering to hide his contempt for my boring career. He sold luxury cars and never missed a chance to mention his commission checks. The afternoon crawled by with forced small talk. Then, as I was refilling drinks, he made his comment. The words hung in the humid air while charcoal smoke drifted past. "Still stuck in that dead-end banking job?" My hands had gone numb. 23 years of expertise, dismissed in one sentence. I looked at Amanda, waiting for her to defend me. She said nothing, just touched Kyle's arm gently and changed the subject. I left without saying goodbye. Nobody noticed. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, replaying the moment. The humiliation burned. But beneath it, something colder settled. Kyle had no idea what I actually did. No idea of the authority I held. And that ignorance was about to become his biggest problem. I didn't cry. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes, engine off, watching shadows lengthen across my quiet street. My house was modest compared to Amanda's showcase property, but I'd paid cash for it 5 years ago. No mortgage. No debt. Just smart decisions Kyle would never understand because he measured success in flash, not foundations. My phone buzzed. An email from work marked urgent. I almost ignored it, but professional habit won. The message was from our Chief Operations Officer. "Nicole, can we discuss the new commercial loan restructuring Monday? We need your insight on the senior review process." Something clicked. The restructuring had been in discussion for months, a new protocol giving senior VPs final authority over commercial applications exceeding $500,000. I'd been part of designing it. And starting next quarter, I'd be one of 3 people in the entire region with approval power. I read the email twice, then looked back toward Amanda's neighborhood. Kyle sold cars. Expensive ones, sure, but he'd been bragging for months about expanding into real estate investment. Big deals. Ambitious plans. Plans that would require serious financing. Plans that would need commercial loan approval. My hands stopped shaking. A smile I didn't recognize touched my lips. I started my car and drove home, already mentally reviewing First Line's lending criteria. Monday morning, I arrived at the office an hour early. The building was quiet, just security and the cleaning crew finishing up. I made coffee in the executive lounge and pulled up our internal database. I needed information, but I had to be careful. Looking up Kyle directly would raise flags. Instead, I searched business registrations in the county. There was Hoffman Luxury Ventures, LLC, registered 6 months ago. Principal owner, Kyle Hoffman. Business type, real estate acquisition and development. My coffee went cold as I read. He was planning something big, something that would require capital he definitely didn't have liquid. I cross-referenced against recent loan inquiries. Nothing yet. But if he was serious about real estate, he'd need financing soon. Commercial property loans were my specialty. And under the new structure starting next month, anything over $500,000 would land on my desk for final review. My assistant knocked softly. "Morning, Nicole. Didn't expect you this early." I closed the database quickly. Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind. She smiled sympathetically and handed me the day's meeting agenda. At the top, final review session, commercial loan restructuring implementation. The timing was perfect. Almost too perfect. I grabbed my briefcase and headed to the conference room, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not just professional pride. Power. Quiet, undeniable power that Kyle would never see coming. The restructuring meeting lasted 3 hours. Our CEO outlined the new approval chain, emphasizing accountability and expertise. "We're trusting our most experienced officers with significant authority," he said, looking directly at me. "These decisions will shape our portfolio for the next decade." I nodded, taking notes I didn't need. I'd helped write this protocol. I knew every clause, every threshold, every checkpoint. The new system was designed to prevent bad loans from slipping through. It required senior VP sign-off on all major commercial applications, with full discretion to request additional documentation, delay approval pending verification, or deny outright if risk factors appeared. After the meeting, our CEO pulled me aside. "Nicole, we're counting on you. Your track record is impeccable. Your judgment, unquestionable. I know this is more responsibility, but frankly, you're the only one I trust completely with this level of authority." His words should have filled me with pride. Instead, they filled me with possibility. I thanked him professionally and returned to my office. My phone showed 2 missed calls from Amanda. I'd been avoiding her since the barbecue. I let them go to voicemail and instead opened a new file on my computer. I labeled it Personal Research and began documenting everything I knew about Kyle's business plans. If he applied for a loan at First Line, I'd be ready. Not to sabotage him illegally. I'd never risk my career or integrity for revenge, but to ensure every single requirement was met. Every document verified. Every projection scrutinized. By the book. Perfectly, slowly, agonizingly by the book. 2 weeks later, Amanda called during my lunch break. "Nicole, why are you avoiding me?" Her voice carried hurt I almost felt guilty about. Almost. "I'm not avoiding you. Work's been crazy. It's been crazy for 2 weeks straight. You couldn't return one call." I sighed, setting down my salad. "Amanda, your husband insulted me at your barbecue. In front of everyone. And you said nothing." Silence stretched between us. Then, quietly, "He didn't mean it like that. Kyle just jokes around." That wasn't a joke. That was contempt. He's under a lot of stress right now. This new business venture is consuming him. The real estate thing. My pulse quickened. "What real estate thing?" "Oh, he's buying a commercial property. Some strip mall he wants to renovate and flip. It's a huge deal. He's been working with investors, crunching numbers constantly. I barely see him." I kept my voice casual. "Sounds ambitious. Where's he getting the financing?" "Some bank, I don't know. He handles all that. But he's confident it'll go through. Says it's practically guaranteed." Practically guaranteed. The phrase settled in my chest like lead. That's great for him. I hope it works out. Maybe you could give him some advice? You know about loans and stuff. I almost laughed. I'm sure Kyle has it all figured out. He always does. We chatted a few more minutes, but I was barely present. My mind was racing. A commercial property. Strip mall renovation. That wasn't $500,000. That was likely over $1 million. And Amanda said some bank, which meant he was shopping around, hadn't committed yet. I hung up and immediately checked First Line's new application queue. Nothing from Hoffman Luxury Ventures yet. But if he was smart, he'd apply soon. And when he did, his practically guaranteed loan would land directly on my desk. 3 weeks after the barbecue, I got the notification. A new commercial loan application, pending initial review. Hoffman Luxury Ventures, LLC. Requested amount, $1.2 million. Purpose, acquisition and renovation of retail property. Primary contact, Kyle Hoffman. I stared at my computer screen, heart hammering. It was happening. Actually happening. He'd applied to First Line, either through sheer coincidence or because someone recommended us. Either way, his application was now in our system, working its way through preliminary review before landing on my desk for final approval. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Protocol required our junior analysts to complete initial verification first, credit checks, business plan review, collateral assessment. I'd look desperate or suspicious if I intervened early, so I waited, maintaining my normal routine, attending meetings, approving smaller loans, acting like this was just another application in the queue. But at night, alone in my house, I reviewed commercial lending guidelines until I had them memorized. I studied case precedents for denied applications. I researched every legal way to delay, question, or scrutinize a loan request without crossing ethical lines. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about ensuring First Line made sound decisions. And if Kyle's application had weaknesses, and I suspected it would, I'd find every single one. My phone buzzed. Amanda texting, "Kyle's so excited about his loan approval. Says it should come through any day now. We're celebrating this weekend. Wanna come?" I read the message twice, then typed back, "We'll see. Busy with work." She sent back a smiley face. I deleted her text and returned to my guidelines, a small smile touching my lips. The preliminary analysis landed in my inbox Monday morning. I let it sit untouched for 4 hours, focusing on other work first. When I finally opened it, I read slowly, professionally, looking for exactly what I expected to find. The junior analyst had flagged 3 concerns. First, Kyle's business was new, only 6 months old with minimal operational history. Second, his projected revenue estimates seemed optimistic compared to market data. Third, his personal debt-to-income ratio was borderline acceptable, but only barely. None of these were automatic disqualifiers, but they warranted additional scrutiny. I drafted a response to the analyst. "Thank you for the thorough review. Please request supplemental documentation, 3 years of personal tax returns, detailed contractor estimates for renovation costs, and updated market analysis supporting revenue projections. Hold for senior review upon receipt." Professional. By the book. Completely justified. But I knew each request would take time. Tax returns required his accountant's involvement. Contractor estimates meant soliciting multiple bids. Market analysis needed research he probably hadn't done yet. Weeks of delays, minimum. Maybe months. I hit send and leaned back in my chair. My office phone rang immediately. The junior analyst. "Nicole, I wanted to confirm. You want all of that for the Hoffman application?" "Yes. It's a significant loan amount, and the initial application raises questions. We need comprehensive documentation." "Understood. I'll send the request today." I thanked him and hung up. Then I opened my personal calendar and marked today's date. The game had officially begun, and Kyle still had no idea I was the one holding all the cards. That weekend, Amanda hosted another gathering. Smaller this time, just family. Mom was visiting from Florida, and Amanda insisted I come. "It's been too long since we were all together," she'd pleaded. I couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. I arrived Saturday afternoon with flowers for Mom and wine for Amanda. Kyle answered the door, confident smile in place. "Nicole, good to see you." His tone suggested he'd already forgotten the barbecue incident. Or never thought it mattered. "Kyle, congratulations on the new venture." His smile widened. "You heard?" "Yeah, it's huge. Biggest deal of my life. Should be closing in a few weeks, once the bank finalizes everything. Just waiting on some paperwork." Paperwork can be tricky, I said carefully. Sometimes takes longer than expected. He waved dismissively. Nah, my loan officer said it's basically approved. Just formalities. I nodded and moved past him to find Amanda. In the kitchen, she was arranging appetizers with Mom. Nicole, Mom pulled me into a hug. You look tired, honey. Working too hard. Always, I said, hugging back. Amanda handed me a glass of wine. Mom, Nicole's actually a big shot at her bank now. Senior something or other. Vice President of Commercial Lending, I corrected quietly. Kyle wandered in, catching the tail end. That's great and all, but when do you actually see the money? I mean, you're what, middle management? Can't be making much compared to real deal makers. The room went silent. Mom's smile froze. Amanda's face flushed. Kyle grabbed a beer from the fridge, oblivious to the tension. I sipped my wine slowly, letting the moment breathe, then said with perfect calm, I do, all right. Enough to be comfortable. What I didn't say, I made 3 times his salary. What I didn't say, his basically approved loan was sitting on my desk right now, and I had the sole authority to deny it. Monday brought the first sign Kyle was feeling pressure. My assistant forwarded an email from his loan officer, client asking about timeline. He seems anxious. Any updates? I replied professionally, still awaiting supplemental documentation requested last week. Cannot proceed without it. Tuesday, the loan officer called me directly. Nicole, I've got Kyle Hoffman calling daily. Says he needs an answer ASAP because he's got investors waiting. Can we push this through? Has he submitted the additional documents? Not yet, but then we wait. You know protocol. No exceptions. She sighed. He's not happy. He doesn't have to be happy. He has to be thorough. I hung up feeling satisfaction curl through my chest. Kyle was used to charisma smoothing his path. But charisma didn't work on balance sheets. It didn't work on market analysis. And it definitely didn't work on me. Wednesday, I received his tax returns. Reviewing them carefully, I found what I suspected. His income was inconsistent, heavily commission-based, with significant fluctuations year to year. Nothing illegal, but it raised questions about his ability to handle consistent loan payments during market downturns. I drafted another request. Please provide proof of liquid reserves equivalent to 6 months of projected loan payments, plus documentation of committed investor funding. Again, completely within lending guidelines. Again, another delay while he scrambled to comply. Thursday, Amanda texted, Kyle's stressed about his loan. Says the bank is being difficult. Do you know anyone there who could help? I stared at the message, weighing my response. Finally, banking has strict protocols. Tell him to work with his loan officer and provide everything requested. That's the fastest path. Her reply was immediate. You're probably right. He's just impatient. If only she knew exactly how impatient he was about to become. 2 weeks later, Kyle still hadn't provided complete documentation. His contractor estimates came in 20% higher than his original projections, which meant his renovation budget was already inadequate. His market analysis, when it finally arrived, used outdated comparables that didn't reflect current rental rates. I documented every discrepancy in my review notes. Not to build a case for denial, but to build a case for why additional scrutiny was warranted. Each note was factual, professional, defensible. But collectively, they painted a picture of an applicant who hadn't done his homework. The loan officer called again. Nicole, he's threatening to go to another bank. That's his prerogative. But he'll face the same questions anywhere. Commercial lending isn't a popularity contest. It's risk assessment. He implied you're being unreasonable. I kept my voice level. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. If he feels I'm being unfair, he can submit a formal complaint to our CEO. But that will require documenting what he finds unreasonable, which will expose the weaknesses in his application. Silence. Then, I'll let him know. Please do. That afternoon, Amanda called. Nicole, can I ask you something? Of course. Kyle says his bank is giving him a hard time, making him jump through hoops other banks wouldn't require. Do you think that's normal? My heart rate increased, but my voice stayed calm. For a loan his size? Absolutely. Commercial lenders are required to thoroughly vet applications. It protects both the bank and the borrower from bad deals. He thinks someone has it out for him. I almost laughed. Amanda, banks don't operate on personal vendettas. They operate on risk analysis and regulatory compliance. If he's facing scrutiny, it's because his application raised legitimate questions. I guess that makes sense. She paused. He's been so irritable lately, snapping at me over nothing. This deal is consuming him. Good, I thought. Let it consume him. Let him feel what it's like when someone dismisses your competence. Business stress is hard on relationships, I said carefully. Maybe he needs to step back and reassess whether this deal is worth the strain. Maybe, she said softly. We talked a few more minutes, then hung up. I looked at my computer screen at Kyle's file still open, still incomplete, still pending. And I smiled. 3 months after his initial application, First Line's new commercial lending structure became official. The announcement went out Friday afternoon. I was now formally designated as one of 3 senior approval officers for the region, with final authority over all commercial loans exceeding $500,000. The promotion came with a raise, a larger office, and a personal assistant dedicated solely to my portfolio. At the celebratory department lunch, colleagues congratulated me. Our CEO shook my hand. Nicole, this is well-deserved. Your judgment and integrity make you perfect for this role. If only he knew how perfect. Monday morning, my new assistant, a sharp woman named Olivia, brought me a stack of pending files. These are yours now. Final review and approval authority. On top of the stack, Hoffman Luxury Ventures, LLC. Still incomplete. Still waiting. I opened the file and reviewed every note, every document, every correspondence. Kyle had finally submitted most of the requested materials, but his updated projections still showed concerning gaps. His liquid reserves were adequate, but barely. His contractor estimates kept climbing. And his market analysis remained optimistic beyond what data supported. I had a decision to make. Not whether to approve or deny, that would come later, but whether to request yet another round of documentation or move to final review. Either path was defensible. Either path was professional. But one path led to answers this week. The other led to months more delays. I chose delay. One more round of requests. Please provide proof of permits for proposed renovations, updated environmental assessment of property, and verification that all investor commitments are legally binding. I signed the request personally and handed it to Olivia. Please send this today. She glanced at the file. This has been pending for months. Yes. Which means we need to be absolutely certain before making a final decision. She nodded and left. I sat back, satisfied. Kyle wanted speed. I was giving him thoroughness. And technically, I was just doing my job. Kyle showed up at my office 3 days later. Olivia buzzed my desk, voice uncertain. Nicole, there's a Kyle Hoffman here. Says he needs to speak with you urgently about his loan application. He doesn't have an appointment. My pulse jumped. This was the moment I'd both anticipated and dreaded. Does he know I'm the approval officer on his file? I didn't mention it. Should I send him away? I paused, calculating. No. Give me 5 minutes, then show him in. Those 5 minutes felt endless. I freshened my lipstick, straightened my blazer, organized the papers on my desk. When Olivia opened the door and Kyle walked in, his expression was confident, almost cocky. He still had no idea. Nicole, fancy seeing you here. His tone was friendly but condescending, like I was the help he'd come to schmooze. I didn't know you worked in this building. I do, I said simply, gesturing to the guest chair. Please sit. He settled in, looking around at my corner office, the view, the credentials on the wall. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe, but he recovered quickly. So I'm having issues with my loan application. Been waiting forever for approval. Figured I'd come in person, talk to whoever's holding things up. I folded my hands on my desk. I'm familiar with your application. You are? Yes. It's mine. The words landed beautifully. His face went blank, processing. Yours? I'm the senior approval officer assigned to your file. I have final authority over whether First Line approves your loan. The color drained from his face. I watched, savoring every second. He swallowed hard. I didn't know you worked in commercial lending. 23 years, I said pleasantly. Started as a teller. Worked my way up. Not exactly a dead-end job, as it turns out. The silence stretched. Kyle's confidence had evaporated, replaced by something I'd never seen in him before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Look, Nicole, if this is about that thing I said at the barbecue. What thing? I interrupted, playing innocent. The comment. About your job. I was joking around. Didn't mean anything by it. I tilted my head slightly. I'm sure you didn't. And I'm sure this loan review has nothing to do with casual comments made at social gatherings. That would be highly unprofessional. He nodded too quickly. Right. Of course. However, I continued, your application does have several areas of concern that require clarification before I can make a final determination. I assume you received our most recent documentation request. His jaw tightened. Yeah. Permits, environmental assessments, investor verification. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting thorough, I corrected. First line has standards. We don't approve seven-figure loans based on optimism. We approve them based on solid evidence that the borrower can succeed and repay. I can succeed. Then prove it. Provide the documentation. Answer the questions. Work with your loan officer to address every concern. Do that, and we can move forward. I smiled professionally. But understand, Kyle, I won't be rushed. I won't cut corners. And I won't approve a loan that puts first line at unnecessary risk, regardless of who the applicant is. He stood abruptly. This is personal. You're dragging this out because of what I said. I remained seated calm. If you believe I'm acting improperly, you're welcome to file a formal complaint with our CEO. I'll be happy to walk him through every decision I've made on your file, every piece of documentation I've requested, and explain exactly why each step was necessary. Would you like me to arrange that meeting? His mouth opened, then closed. We both knew what a formal review would reveal. His application was weak, and my requests were legitimate. No, he said finally. Fine. I'll get you the documentation. Excellent. I look forward to reviewing it. He left without another word. Olivia appeared in the doorway moments later. Everything okay? Perfect, I said. Absolutely perfect. That evening, Amanda called. Nicole, what's going on? Her voice was shaking. What do you mean? Kyle just got home. Says you're the one blocking his loan. That you're doing this to punish him. I sighed carefully. Amanda, I'm doing my job. His application has legitimate issues that need addressing. I'm treating it exactly like I'd treat any other commercial loan of this size. But you never told me you were handling it. Because I didn't know until it was assigned to me. And even then, I couldn't discuss it with you. Banking confidentiality. Surely you understand that. Silence. Then, quietly, are you punishing him? The question hung between us. I could have lied. Could have insisted this was purely professional. Instead, I chose honesty. Amanda, I'm holding him to the same standards I hold everyone else. Not higher. Not lower. The same. If that feels like punishment to Kyle, maybe it's because he's used to charm carrying him through situations where competence should matter more. Nicole, he insulted my career. My life's work. He dismissed 23 years of expertise as a dead-end job. In front of people. In front of you. And you said nothing. My voice was steady but cold. So no, I'm not punishing him. But I'm also not doing him any favors. He'll get fair treatment. Nothing more, nothing less. Amanda was crying now. You're my sister. I know. And you're mine. Which is why it hurt so much when you let him disrespect me. We sat in silence, breathing, hurting. Finally, I'm sorry. I should have said something. Yes, you should have. Can you help him? Please. I closed my eyes. I'm already helping him. By making sure he doesn't take on a loan he can't handle. By ensuring his business plan is sound. That's more help than charm ever gave him. But, Amanda, I have to go. We'll talk later. I hung up before she could respond. Kyle's additional documentation arrived 2 weeks later. Olivia brought me the thick envelope personally. Everything he was supposed to provide. I thanked her and spent the next 4 hours reviewing every page. The permits were in order. The environmental assessment showed no major concerns. But the investor agreements? They were vague. Commitments weren't legally binding, just letters of intent that could be withdrawn anytime. I made detailed notes. This was the weakness that could justify denial, or at least require restructuring. The loan amount was based partially on those investor commitments. If they weren't guaranteed, the financing structure became unstable. I drafted my analysis carefully, citing specific lending guidelines and precedent cases. Then I scheduled a meeting with our CEO and Chief Risk Officer. The meeting was formal, professional. I presented Kyle's application, walked through my concerns, and recommended we require either binding investor contracts or a reduced loan amount he could service without that capital. The CEO nodded thoughtfully. Your analysis is sound, Nicole. This is exactly the kind of scrutiny we need. What does the applicant say? I haven't communicated this yet. Wanted your input first. Request the binding contracts. Give him 30 days. If he can't provide them, we move to option 2, reduced amount, stricter terms. Understood. I left the meeting feeling vindicated. This wasn't revenge. This was exactly what responsible lending looked like. That afternoon, I called Kyle's loan officer. Please inform Mr. Hoffman that final approval is contingent on receiving legally binding investor commitments within 30 days. Without them, we'll need to restructure at a reduced amount. She hesitated. Nicole, he's going to lose it. Then he'll lose it. But those are the terms. I hung up and waited for the inevitable explosion. It took less than an hour. My office phone rang, caller ID showing an external number. I answered professionally. Nicole Brennan. This is bullshit. Kyle's voice was raw with fury. You're sabotaging me. Mr. Hoffman, this is a recorded line. I suggest you speak professionally. Don't give me that corporate crap. You know exactly what you're doing. This is revenge. I kept my voice level. This is risk management. Your investor commitments aren't binding. That creates exposure for first line. We need proper contracts or we reduce the loan amount to what you can service independently. Those investors are solid. They're not backing out. Then getting binding contracts should be simple. It takes time. Legal work, negotiations. You have 30 days. I have a closing date in 6 weeks. I need this approved now. I let silence sit for a moment. Kyle, raising your voice won't change banking regulations or lending standards. You have 2 options, binding contracts within 30 days, or we restructure at a reduced amount. Those are the only paths forward. You're enjoying this. His voice dropped, bitter. I'm doing my job. The same job you called dead end. The same job you dismissed in front of my family. I paused. Maybe if you'd spent less time insulting people and more time building a solid business plan, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Nicole, 30 days, Kyle. The clock is ticking. I hung up, heart pounding but hands steady. Across my desk, Olivia stood in the doorway, eyes wide. Was that? Yes. Is everything? Everything is perfect, I said quietly. Absolutely perfect. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda called me 6 times. I answered twice, kept both conversations brief and professional. Kyle was spiraling, she said. Not sleeping, snapping at her constantly, obsessing over the loan. He thinks you hate him, she said during the second call. I don't hate him, Amanda. I don't think about him enough to hate him. Then why are you making this so hard? I'm not making it hard. Commercial lending is hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's how banks avoid catastrophic losses. But other banks would have approved him by now. Maybe. Or maybe they would have asked the same questions and he's just shopping for someone who won't. I sighed. Look, I genuinely hope Kyle succeeds. But I won't compromise first-line standards or my professional judgment to make that happen faster. If his deal is solid, the documentation will prove it. She was quiet for a long moment. Mom called me. Asked why you and I aren't talking as much. What did you tell her? That we're both busy. I didn't mention this. Probably for the best. After we hung up, I sat staring at my office wall. Part of me, a small part, felt guilty. But the larger part, the part that had spent 2 decades being dismissed and underestimated, felt something else entirely. Satisfaction. Validation. And yes, a measure of justice that tasted sweeter than I'd expected. My phone buzzed. Email from Kyle's loan officer. Investor contracts submitted. Reviewing for compliance. I opened the attachments. The contracts looked legitimate, drafted by proper legal counsel, binding commitments with clear timelines and amounts. He'd actually done it. I felt an odd mix of disappointment and respect. He'd stepped up, proved me wrong about his ability to deliver. Now came the real test. Would I be professional enough to approve what met our standards, even though part of me wanted to keep him twisting? I spent 3 days reviewing the investor contracts with our legal team. They were solid, binding, enforceable, properly structured. Kyle had delivered exactly what I'd requested. The loan application, with this final piece in place, now met first line's approval criteria. I sat at my desk Friday afternoon, the approval document open on my screen, cursor blinking next to the signature line. One click, and Kyle's loan would be approved. One click, and all this would be over. I thought about the barbecue, the dismissive smirk, the casual cruelty of being called a failure in front of family. I thought about Amanda's silence, her unwillingness to defend me. Then I thought about my career, my reputation, the standards I'd built over 23 years. If I denied this loan out of spite, I'd be proving Kyle right, that I was petty small, exactly as insignificant as he'd implied. But if I approved it professionally, I'd prove something else entirely, that competence, integrity, and following proper procedure always won. I signed the approval, dated it, forwarded it to the loan officer with a brief note, application approved, pending standard closing procedures. Please inform client. Then I closed the file and went home. The satisfaction I felt wasn't about revenge. It was about knowing I'd done everything right. I'd held Kyle to standards he'd probably never faced before. I'd made him work for something he'd assumed would be easy. And in the end, I'd proven my job was anything but dead end. Monday morning, Amanda called. Nicole, Kyle's loan got approved. I heard. He's relieved, but also humbled, I think. He told me he had no idea how complicated commercial lending was. Said he underestimated what you do. I smiled. Good. Can we have lunch? Just us? I miss you. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. Lunch with Amanda was tentative at first. We met at a quiet bistro halfway between our homes, ordered salads, made small talk about Mom. Then, finally, she said what we were both thinking. I'm sorry I didn't defend you. At the barbecue. I set down my fork. Why didn't you? She looked uncomfortable. Kyle has this way of making me feel like I'm overreacting if I call him out. He'd have said I was being too sensitive, that it was just a joke, that you could handle it. So I said nothing, and I hate that I did that. I can handle it, I said quietly. But I shouldn't have to. Not from family. I know. You're right. She twisted her napkin. When Kyle told me you were handling his loan, I was horrified. I thought you'd deny it out of anger. But you didn't. You actually helped him build a better application. I nodded slowly. I did my job. That's all. It's more than that. You could have, but I didn't. Because my integrity matters more than petty revenge. I needed him to understand that what I do is important, is skilled, is valuable. And the only way to prove that was to treat his application exactly like I'd treat anyone else's. With thoroughness, standards, and professionalism. Amanda reached across the table, squeezed my hand. He knows now. He came home after the approval call and said, "Your sister is actually brilliant." I had no idea. Despite everything, I laughed. Better late than never, I guess. We talked for another hour, rebuilding the bridge that had nearly crumbled. When we hugged goodbye in the parking lot, something felt healed. Not perfect, but better. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it cautiously. Nicole, this is Kyle. I owe you an apology. What I said at the barbecue was disrespectful and ignorant. Your job isn't dead end. It's the opposite. Thank you for treating my application fairly even though I didn't deserve it. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, apology accepted. Good luck with your venture. Short. Professional. Final. I set my phone down and looked around my home office, at my diplomas, my awards, the evidence of a career built brick by brick. Kyle had learned a lesson. Amanda had learned a lesson. But more importantly, I'd learned one too, that power used with integrity was far more satisfying than power used for revenge. 3 months later, Amanda invited me to a small dinner party. Just a few friends, she'd said. Nothing big. I arrived to find the house decorated modestly, warm lighting, comfortable atmosphere. Kyle greeted me at the door with a handshake that was genuinely respectful. Nicole, thank you for coming. Thanks for having me. He gestured inside. I wanted you to meet some of the investors. They're interested in hearing about commercial lending processes. Figured you're the expert. I raised an eyebrow. You're asking me to talk shop at a dinner party? He smiled sheepishly. I'm asking the smartest person in finance I know to share some wisdom. If you're willing. Something had shifted. The arrogance was gone, replaced with genuine humility. I'm willing, I said. The evening was pleasant. I talked with his investors about risk assessment, documentation importance, why thoroughness protected everyone involved. They listened intently, asked smart questions, treated me with the respect I'd always deserved. At one point, Kyle raised his glass. A toast. To Nicole, who taught me that banking isn't boring. It's the backbone of everything we're trying to build. Thank you for making me better. Everyone raised their glasses. I met Amanda's eyes across the table. She was smiling proud. I clinked my glass against Kyle's. To learning, I said. And to never underestimating people again. Later, as guests mingled on the patio, Amanda pulled me aside. This means a lot. You being here. I'm glad I came. Kyle's different now. More careful. More thoughtful. I think almost losing that loan scared him straight. I smiled. Good. Fear can be an excellent teacher. We stood together watching the party. Sisters again, our bond scarred but stronger. My phone buzzed. Work email. Another commercial loan application, this one from a startup founder, 800,000 requested. I glanced at the name, didn't recognize it, but felt that familiar thrill of challenge. Have to run. Amanda asked, noticing my distraction. Not yet. But soon. I tucked my phone away. This is nice though. Being here. Being appreciated. You always deserve to be appreciated, she said softly. I'm just sorry it took so long for us to see it. 6 months after Kyle's loan closed, I attended a regional banking conference in Dallas. During a panel on commercial lending best practices, I shared the story, anonymously of course, about an applicant who'd required extensive documentation and how thoroughness had ultimately strengthened both the loan and the client's business plan. Afterward, several attendees approached me. That kind of rigor is rare, one said. Most officers take shortcuts. Shortcuts cause problems later, I replied. Better to do it right the first time. A younger woman, maybe 30, hung back until others dispersed. Ms. Brennan? I'm starting in commercial lending next month. Any advice? I smiled, remembering myself at her age. Never compromise your standards. Not for charm, not for pressure, not for anyone who makes you feel like thoroughness is a waste of time. Your job is to protect the institution and help clients succeed. Those goals aren't contradictory, they're complementary. She thanked me and walked away. I watched her go, hoping she'd remember that advice when she faced her own Kyle Hoffman someday. The conference ended with an award ceremony. To my surprise, I was recognized for outstanding leadership in commercial lending. As I accepted the plaque, I thought about that barbecue, that insult, that moment of humiliation. And I thought about how far I'd come, not despite being underestimated, but because I'd used that underestimation as fuel. Back in my hotel room, I texted Amanda a photo of the award. She responded immediately, so proud. Kyle is too. He says you're a legend. I smiled and set my phone aside. Legend might be overstating it. But I'd earned respect the right way. And that was enough. A year after the barbecue, Amanda hosted a birthday party for Mom. The whole family gathered, including Kyle's parents, cousins, friends. The atmosphere was warm, celebratory. I arrived with an expensive bottle of champagne and Mom's favorite flowers. Kyle met me at the door again, but this time with genuine warmth. Nicole, Mom's been asking about you. We walked inside together. How's the property doing? I asked. Better than projected, actually. We're already scouting the next opportunity. Already? That's ambitious. He grinned. Yeah, but this time I'm preparing documentation 6 months in advance. Not making that mistake again. I laughed. Smart man. I learned from the best. Mom pulled me into a hug, beaming. There's my successful daughter. Amanda says you won some big award. Regional recognition. Nothing huge. Nothing huge. Amanda interjected. Nicole, stop being modest. You're literally one of the top commercial lenders in Texas. Kyle raised his glass. Hear, hear. Nicole Brennan, the woman who made me realize banking is actually badass. Everyone laughed. I felt my face warm but accepted the praise gracefully. Later, as I helped Amanda cut the cake, she whispered, "You seem happy." I am. Good. You deserve it. I looked around at my family, at Kyle talking animatedly with guests, at Mom laughing with old friends. A year ago, I'd sat in my car after that barbecue, humiliated and angry. Now, I stood here vindicated, respected, at peace. Amanda? Yeah. Thank you. For apologizing. For changing. She hugged me tight. Thank you for not giving up on us. We served cake and celebrated Mom, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly right. 2 years after the barbecue, I received a surprising phone call. Kyle. Nicole, I need advice. Not about a loan, about a career move. I'm listening. One of my investors wants to bring me into his real estate development firm. Full partner. It's huge. But it means giving up my independence, working under someone else's vision. I considered carefully. What does your gut say? My gut says take it. My ego says stay independent. Then you have your answer. Ego rarely makes good business decisions. He laughed. You're right. Again. Kyle, can I ask you something? Of course. That comment at the barbecue. Did you really think my job was dead end, or were you just being cruel? Long silence. Honestly, I didn't think about it at all. I was showing off, trying to be funny. I had no idea what you actually did, never bothered to ask. That's the worst part. The insult was careless, not even intentional. Careless hurts more sometimes, I said quietly. I know that now. I'm sorry. Truly, I know you are. And I've forgiven you. But I won't forget. Because that moment taught me something valuable about demanding respect, about not accepting dismissiveness from anyone, family, or otherwise. You taught me something too, he said. That competence speaks louder than charisma. That doing things right matters more than doing them fast. We talked a few more minutes, then hung up. I sat thinking about growth, about how people could change when consequences forced them to. Kyle had learned. Amanda had learned. And I'd learned that standing up for yourself, even quietly, even professionally, was sometimes the most powerful thing you could do. 3 years after the barbecue, First Line promoted me again. Executive Vice President, Chief Commercial Officer. I now oversaw the entire commercial lending division for the region. The announcement made local business news. I received congratulatory calls, emails, flowers. Amanda called, crying happy tears. Nicole, this is amazing. Thank you. Kyle wants to take you to dinner. Celebrate properly. Tell him I'd like that. We met at an upscale steakhouse. Kyle and Amanda arrived early, had already ordered wine. When I sat down, Kyle slid an envelope across the table. What's this? Open it. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Nicole, 3 years ago I insulted your career without knowing anything about it. You responded with professionalism, integrity, and standards that made me a better businessman. Thank you for the lesson. I'm grateful every day that you're my sister-in-law. Kyle. I felt tears prick my eyes. Kyle. I mean it. Every word. Amanda reached over, squeezed my hand. We're both grateful. For you. For your patience with us. For not holding grudges. I looked at them both. These imperfect people I loved despite everything. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because it was right. We know, Amanda said. But you deserve to hear it anyway. We ordered dinner, talked about work and life and Mom's upcoming visit. At one point, Kyle raised his glass. To Nicole Brennan, the most competent person I know. May the rest of the world recognize what we were too blind to see. Hear, hear, Amanda echoed. I clinked my glass against theirs, smiling. Not because I needed their validation anymore, but because having it felt good. Felt earned. Felt right. 5 years after the barbecue, I stood in my corner office at First Line's headquarters, looking out over the city. My office was twice the size now, with a view that stretched for miles. My team had grown to 50 people. My portfolio exceeded $2 billion. On my desk sat a framed photo from Mom's recent birthday party, all of us together, smiling, genuine. Next to it, the award from that banking conference. And next to that, a small plaque I had made for myself, competence, integrity, standards. My assistant knocked. Nicole? Your 3 o'clock is here. Thank you, Olivia. Send them in. A young couple entered, nervous, hopeful. First-time business owners seeking their first commercial loan. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Please sit. Tell me about your business. They launched into their pitch. A bakery, family recipes, modest projections. I listened carefully, asked questions, took notes. When they finished, I said, I'll need comprehensive documentation. Financial statements, business plan, market analysis, contractor estimates if you're renovating space. The husband's face fell slightly. That's a lot. Yes. Because I take my job seriously. Because I want you to succeed. And because thorough preparation now prevents problems later. Can you provide what I'm asking? They exchanged glances, then nodded. Yes, we can. Good. Then we'll move forward. Work with my team, answer every question thoroughly, and I promise you'll get a fair evaluation. They left hopeful. Olivia appeared in the doorway. You were smiling the whole meeting. Was I? You love this. Even after all these years. I thought about that. About 28 years in banking now, about every challenge and triumph, about Kyle's insult and the journey it sparked. Yeah, I said finally. I really do. That evening, I drove past Amanda's neighborhood. The house looked peaceful in the fading light. I didn't stop, just kept driving, heading home to my quiet house, my comfortable life, my hard-earned success. My phone buzzed. Text from Amanda, Sunday dinner? Mom's requesting your presence. I smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it. As I pulled into my driveway, I thought about that barbecue 5 years ago. The insult, the humiliation, the rage. And I thought about everything that had come after. The promotion, the authority, the moment Kyle's loan landed on my desk and I held all the power. But more than that, I thought about integrity. About doing the right thing even when the wrong thing would have felt satisfying. About proving my worth not through revenge, but through competence. Some people might say I should have denied Kyle's loan, made him suffer, truly punished him. But they'd be wrong. Because the real victory wasn't in his pain. It was in his respect. It was in proving that a dead-end banking job had the power to shape dreams, build futures, and teach arrogant men that underestimating quiet competence was the biggest mistake they could make. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. Tomorrow, more applications would land on my desk. More people seeking approval, seeking help, seeking a chance. And I'd evaluate every single one with the same standards. Thorough, professional, fair. Because that's what I did. That's who I was. Not despite the insults I'd endured, but because of them. Nicole Brennan, 45 years old. Executive Vice President of Commercial Lending. And absolutely, undeniably, anything but dead end.